It's that time of the week to sit back, relax, and find out what's happening in Texas waters. And if you like to get out of the boat, you'll find this show to be very inviting. Tonight on the Texas Insider Fishing Report, we're talking all about wading.
Welcome to the Texas Insider Fishing Report. Presented by Yamaha.
Thanks for joining us for another week on the Texas Insider Fishing Report. I'm Brie Gabrielle alongside Captain Rick Murphy, and today is going to be a little different kind of reporting because the guides and captains are not only giving us regional reports, but they're also taking us wade fishing. Right, Rick?
You know, Brie, I just thought it would be such a great theme to have all our captains talk about in the beginning of each one of their reports, because certainly when you spread out and you get out of the boat, what ends up happening is you can cover a whole lot of area. And so, you know.
Exactly, more options.
Absolutely.
For more fish, bigger fish. All right, well, let's see what kind of tips and tricks Dave Ferrell has for us wading at the CCA workbench.
You know, wade fishing is one of my favorite things to do, you know, to get up early in the morning and be out there in the water by yourself or with a couple of friends. There's really no other way to get in touch with the water like that, you know, so.
Yeah, I'd say.
It's really fun.
I'd say
really
so.
Fun. And very effective.
Yes.
Very, very effective.
You can be stealthy.
Yeah, sneaking up on them.
You were going to say that.
That's kind of like I like to do, sneak up on things.
Exactly. Well, we won't keep you waiting any longer and bring your guide from the... Bring on the puns. This is number one. From the Tasty Project Smokehouse Lower Fresh region, Matt Reed with reports on Lake Travis, LBJ, and Stillhouse Hollow, just to name a few. Start us off, Matt.
All right, we're going to start this one off like we're going to do with wading. You know, if you're limited to wading, you need to look at public access areas around your lakes. State parks give you, areas that cover large portions of land on the shoreline. You can get in those state parks and get down to your lake edges and find the places that have good cover and habitat and get your feet wet. You know, heck, it's summer, it's warm. Get out there and wade where you can throw to the grass or the wood cover. Keep your lure selections basic, for what type of fish you're chasing. If you after bass, you might want to throw a Texas rig worm or spinnerbait. If it's bluegill, heck, you might want to just have crickets or earthworms and just catch all you can. Keep it simple and have fun. One of the other places that's really good to look, most cities have small flood control reservoirs, and they're great fishing, a bunch of them, and they're easy access for everybody. Most of them have perch, catfish, crappie, and bass. Heck, it's just a blast. Take yourself and the kids out and get your feet wet and catch whatever's available. It's always fun to get a tug on the other end of the line. I'm gonna move on into the bass now. We're going to start out in that Central Texas area around Austin. Lake Travis is getting better and better right now. Bigger fish are starting to show up. They're moving back up in the shallower water. What's happening there is the brim are spawning, the bluegill are spawning, and it's time for revenge. Those bluegill, they bother the bass while they're spawning. Now the bass are going to move back up there and get them an easy meal while those bluegill are spawning. You use a Texas rig, plastics or jigs. That's the key to getting the bigger bites in around that shallow cover. Also, there's a real good topwater bite right now. Get you a big walking bait or a whopper flopper style bait, and you might catch you a great old big one on top. Lake LBJ is fishing really well. The best bite is skipping jigs under the docks. That's the way to catch your big ones. You might want to throw a crankbait around the high patches of hydrilla to catch better numbers. Throw those in the square bill types, most of them in the shad color. That's what's getting the best bite right now. Stillhouse Hollow is producing some really nice fish using Carolina rigs, flukes and baby brush hogs, and watermelon candy and watermelon seed. There's also a few fish biting the jerk bait if you find schools of bait fish suspended with them around them. Get your suspended jerk bait out there off those main lake points around that bait. Get it down in them, and you'd be surprised what you can catch. Belton is another lake in the area that's fishing really well. You can catch some good-sized ones on a Texas rig, like a full-size brush hog or jigs in the middle of the drains off the edge of the main lake. There's also some good fish being caught on frogs early in the back of the coves. Moving all the way down south, Lake Falcon, the bass are biting really well on square bill crankbaits around the shallow rock piles on the upper to mid-lake areas in 2 to 5 feet of water. The summer deal is fully engaged on the lower end of the lake. Those fish are out on the rock ledges and rock piles in that 10 to 20 foot range. Get you a Carolina rig, throw a fluke or a big worm on it to catch a whole lot of fish. Also get you a big crankbait and throw it on those rocks in that 10 to 20 foot range. That's probably your best bet to catch you a great old big one right now.
All right, Matt, you got a photo? Tell me about it.
Sure. That's Greg Boyk with Anglers Angle Guide Service, who sends me a ton of reports and helps me out a bunch. He's got a great old big lower fresh region bass. There's tons of them on a bunch of lakes down that way.
All right, I got a question for you. So where are we, because you have such a big region, where are you as far as the spawn go? If you divide your region into half, tell me, is your spawning all done or where are we?
Lower fresh is all done. All the way down in the far south reaches down to Falcon and so forth, you're in full summer pattern. If you move on to the east a little bit, you can find just some post spawn where the shad spawn's happening still. But as you move further south, you're already full blown summer.
All right, well that's good to know because the middle fresh region and the upper fresh region, they're obviously still got a few fish spawning, so it's good to know. It's really intriguing to me to see how it changes, but you forget how big Texas really is.
And how big his region is.
Exactly.
It's massive.
Well, I appreciate your effort this week, and more importantly, we're going to take a little time and talk about Prosek Smokehouse. Guys, remember, if you want to order some great jerky, some great rubs, whatever it is, I have all your great meat needs, make sure you go to Prosek Smokehouse or Proseks.com and use the promo code TIFR to get a 10% discount.
It will meet all your needs.
Oh, there's a number three.
Okay, number three. All right, let's take a look at the hotspots for the lower fresh region, shall we?
Let's do that. Thank you so much, Brie. The lower fresh region hotspots, a great wading fishing area in the Falcon Lake State Park. Look for the points and the rock ledges that run into the water from the shore. There's also a ton of white bass and largemouth bass in the areas right now. Crankbaits are the best choice to load up on both.
All right, staying south, we're heading into the Garmin Lower Coast region with Captain Chad Kinney, who has some good news if you're wading around this weekend. We missed you here in the studio, but talk to us, Chad.
I'll tell you what, wade fishing is my favorite thing to do. For one, it's most productive. It's a lot more fun. Heck, you actually get some exercise out of it, and it's a great way to do it. So I'll sit here wading, especially here in the lower coast. Like I said, it's the best way to do it. When you get your guys out of the boat, your anglers out there, space them out evenly, let everybody kind of get ready. Everybody moves at a different pace normally as far as that. So if you can spread them out about 50 yards apart, that's the best way. And that way you can cast and cover so much more water. You cast at like 10 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 2 o'clock, and everybody kind of move at the same pace. If you got your one buddy that's, a sprinter, tell him to slow on down because he'll push through the fish and it'll be less productive. So walk through there. And when you get into the fish also, you can keep an eye on, and it's nice. You can talk to your buddies. It's quiet. You start getting in the fish, stay on them. And you can stay right there with them. And if it slows down, you move up another 30, 40 yards and push through, and it works really, really well like that. When you're working sunken dumps or reef areas and stuff like that, it's still more productive and stuff like that. How it works is you can work more with the edges of the grass lines, your oyster beds, whatever you're working on, stuff like that. You can cast more areas. If you're drifting a boat, you drift right up there, and then you guys start the boat, spook all the fish, drive back around, and repeat that. So when you're wading, you're done. You can stay on those fish solid, and it works so much better that way. And then also, the tides have been up high here lately, and the wind conditions change throughout the day, so it's been kind of swirling around. So if you're drift fishing, you can't really get a true drift kind of going through there. So when you're wading, you can capitalize on this when the fish are a little bit more finicky. You can get them to bite, whether you're throwing soft plastics, live baits, everything else like that. If you use some live bait, working really well right now, some croaker, live piggies, 30-pound fluorocarbon, 5-aught kale hook, and hit those deeper drop-offs and stuff like that when you're wading like that. So if you get into that deeper water, you can stay there, cast out farther, work that area. Works the best way out there. When you're doing this wade fishing also, having a lot of gears ready, don't have enough time to go into all that, but if you get your soft science boots on there, those things are comfortable. You can wade for days on them, and you don't mess up your feet. You got your wading belts, your drop nets and stuff. And when you're doing this also, landing the fish is just so much more challenging. It's a lot of fun when you get in the water there. So I got a good picture here of wade fishing. We just fished a tournament this past weekend, so we got a Texas Slam there. I got some buddies of mine, so we got a nice flounder there. We got a 25-inch trout. We got a big old fat 28-inch redfish on the nose there.
Nice, good job. All right, what else you got for us inshore, Bubba?
Yeah, we're gonna go to Black Drum. Don't talk about these things a lot, bunch all the time, but we're going to this time. A little more around that Baffin Bay area, Port A. It's a little bit better for that. We have them here, Mansfield and South, but they're more predominant up there. Best thing in that one is cut bait or dead shrimp. Dead shrimp's definitely the best way to go for that one. If you're looking for these, look for schools, fishing water and wakes and stuff like that. Fish those drop-offs, whether it's rocks or any drop-offs on the ICW. Also look for big mud trails in the flats that they can be pushing. And the best way to do that is power pole down right in front of where they're moving to. Use dead shrimp on just an 1/8 ounce jig head. Peel that shrimp up out of there and chunk it out there. When you do, throw your bait out there. Just let it sit on the bottom. Let them pick it up. They'll move real slow with it and then set the hook. You'll have a lot better success. Don't try to jig through or motion through there. So kind of take a frozen box of shrimp along with you in case you pop up and find some of this whole big school. But if you look here, I got a picture too of a Ruben Garza down here at Snook Dude Charters. He caught a monster black drum. His client did. And they ended up releasing it.
Wow.
All right,
nice.
What else you got for us, Bub?
Yeah, heading offshore, we had some really neat stuff. I'll get you guys some info on this. The sea conditions kind of been up and down, and the current's been really tough, but we just finished tagging over 100 red snapper for a project with Texas A&M for research they're doing. So these things have yellow tags in them. So if you guys are out there, they're tagged in state water, federal water, and starting June 1st here, or if you catch one in state waters, right now it's open, but June 1st, federal waters opens. But if you catch one of these, it has all the information on it. You can turn it in, and you get reimbursed $250 for the fish. So it's a pretty neat deal. Like I said, we tagged a bunch of different areas, so it's going to be kind of neat for this summer to go out there and catch one. So if you see one, it has all the info. And like I said, June 1st, the federal waters will open. You allow 2 per person, 16-inch minimum. And when you're currently right now, if you're fishing state waters and stuff, the seas and the current's been kind of tough. Even when we tagged all these fish, it was a little bit slower than normal, but we've had to go up to a 16-ounce bank weight on a double drop rig with a 150-pound leader. And we're using fresh baits the best. We're using cut spot croaker and everything else and squid, and it works out really well. The kingfish are still hanging around here and in that 50 to 90 foot of water. When you're done with your snapper fishing, I like pulling those mirror lures, the 25-foot divers, 5 to 6 knots, like we spoke about last week. Hit those structures like that. After you're done with your snapper, the sun's up, it's a little more shiny, stuff works, and you have a good time to hit that. Got a picture here of a red snapper when we tagged them. So y'all can see on that picture there is 2 tags off this fish. So some have 1 tag, some have 2. The reason for 2 is in case one falls out, they got a second one. So the fish ain't worth $500, it's still $250.
2's better than 1. I appreciate it. Great report. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the lower coast hotspots. He says, inshore out of Arroyo City, head to the Green Islands for trout on the break from the grass to the sand, and then head further east on the sand and look for the sight casting redfish. And then offshore, sea conditions and currents remain difficult, so look for state water snapper fishing and kingfish to be your best bet. Action around structure in 50 to 90 feet. I don't do so well.
No, it's okay. We'll work on it.
I can't roll my otters.
It's okay. We'll work on it.
Okay.
All right, we're just getting our feet wet here on the Texas Insider Fishing Report. And up next, we're headed to the Yeti Upper Fresh region. But first, we're going to meander over to the CCA workbench and see what kind of work Dave Ferrell's putting in for rigs and techniques.
What you got, Dave?
Roll your arse?
I don't roll
in
my
Scotland,
arse.
that's a different thing, rolling your arse. You don't need a lot of stuff in wade fishing, but we got some good stuff coming.
You need to roll your R's. You do.
roll
We'll be
your
back,
R's.
guys.
Only Dave. Look what I'm giving these 2 guys.
The Texas Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Yamaha. Reliability starts here. Casa Vieja Lodge, 5-star angling in beautiful Guatemala. Garmin, join the club. Sportsman's Adventures, fishing for adventure. And CCA Texas, a leader in marine conservation.
Yamaha's 4.2-liter V6 offshore 4-strokes. For those that like their V6 lighter, faster, and stronger. Setting new standards for power, efficiency, speed, and lightweight. Built for the rigors of offshore boating. Packed with Yamaha's legendary reliability. And now Yamaha's 4.2-liter V6 4-strokes offer a choice between digital or mechanical controls to match your rigging preference. Yamaha, Reliability starts here.
Are you tired of fighting foul odors in your car? The easy-to-use Auto Odor Eliminator from Starbright uses the power of chlorine dioxide to eliminate even the worst smells. From cigarettes and pets to fast food and sweaty kids, this EPA-registered chlorine dioxide technology fights the odor-causing bacteria, the source of the stink. Don't just cover it up. Eliminate it with the Auto Odor Eliminator from Starbright.
If you're not a member of Coastal Conservation Association, you need to be. CCA fights on a national and state level for our fishing rights so that our children and grandchildren will have fish to catch today and in the future. CCA, through their habitat programs, create oyster and artificial reefs, as well as many other habitat programs. CCA also each year releases millions of trout, redfish, and flounder, so join myself, Brie, and Dave and become a member of CCA now.
So we're here at the CCA workbench, Dave,
That
and
was
Rigs and
fast.
Techniques. Yeah, man. But you know, this week we're talking about wading.
Yeah,
so
and,
why don't we get into it?
Well, and Texas has, like 400 miles of great wading, 8 bays, that are all great for wading. So, if you want to go out and catch a trout or a redfish or even little croakers and whatever, you want to
whiting.
go, if you want to go catch some fish, it's an easy way to do it. You don't have to have a boat. It's nice to have a boat sometimes. You can wade out of a boat, or you can just wade off from shore. But the good thing about it is it's very easily accessible to everybody, and at the same time, it's very, very effective, because when you're in the water like that, you're not spooking a lot of fish. You can, like you said earlier in the show, you can walk up on other fish very easily and get real close to them and make some really good sight casts. So it's a lot of fun to do. Not only is it very effective, but it's a lot of fun. So, the good thing about what we're talking about today is some of the places that you can go. We have a fella on our show who's written a book, Bing Grimes, and it's called The Saltwater Strategies: Where, When, and How to Wade Fish in Texas. So if you're looking for a good place to go and the right time to go, more importantly, this book will tell you. If it's the summertime or the wintertime or the fall or the spring, he tells you where to go. I mean, he's got the maps in there to put you in the right spot, and that is very, very important, because you'd rather be spending, an hour in a good spot than 10 hours in a crappy one. You gotta find the good spots. Now,
So what are you going to need? We're going to start off with a pair of good waders.
well, you're going to have, especially during the winter and the fall when the water gets cold, you're going to want waterproof waders that'll keep the water off you. Either, some like these Sims here, which are really nice. These kind of waders, if you spend the money at the outset, they'll last you 5-6 years sometimes if you get a really good pair like that. You can go the cheap route if you want to and go to a big dollar store and buy the little rubber plastic ones and put some like sweatpants on underneath of them, and they'll keep you warm, but they're only good for like 2 or 3 trips because they're very thin, plastic, and you don't want to be out there on that 4th or 5th trip and spring a leak, because it gets really cold sometimes.
So we're going to use, if you want to put, those are sock waders, so you
Correct.
need a pair of wading
Well, you're going to need
boots.
a pair of boots to put on top of them. These Soft Science wading boots here are really good for soft bottoms and stuff. It's got a zipper on the side, which you should always look for, because it's very easy. They're easy to get out of. We used to use the old dive booties that didn't have a zipper, and once you wade in them all day, they were really hard to get off of you. These have the zipper on the outside of the boot, which allows you to get out of them real easy, but it also has a clasp at the top. And this will keep you from leaving your boots when you find some really soft mud or something, if you don't have the really nice
Plus, you
lace-up
can pull
kind.
this tight, and it eliminates a lot of rocks and sand and stuff going in.
Correct. You don't want a bunch of stuff going in there, and that's where a lot of the guys use the
Great bottoms.
Yep, it won't slip, but you don't really have to worry about slipping in Texas too much. And these are if you go high end. You can go in all kinds of water. You can even get on rocks and those kind of things there. Those are really nice. And they'll keep they won't rot. They're made out of stuff that won't rot, and they'll keep your feet warm as well. Yeah. And especially when you're wearing some of these waders. Now, a lot of some of the gear you're going to want to use, a lot of guys will carry a little wading belt, and this does several things. it allows you to carry some gear with you. One thing is, you don't want to use the box that usually comes with this, because even though they're trying to help you out, that's not a waterproof box. You want a box that you can close with clasps and stays waterproof, and that'll keep all your gear, because eventually it's going to get wet, and if you get salt water in all your stuff, it's going to be ruined. And the good thing about these belts too, when you got a big belly like mine, you get a little fatter, that belt really helps your back, because when you're out there walking for 4 hours and casting a lot, that belt actually will help your back a little bit. You want to try to get a good size rod that'll make a long cast, 6.5 foot to 7.5 foot, depending on how heavy you want really, because if you're going to be casting a lot and you're not you don't do it a lot, you might want to go for a shorter rod to ease some of the fatigue. If you're more concerned with long casts and wanting to reach way out and keep your bait in a certain depth, then you might want to go longer. You want to have
about 30 seconds.
You want to have a good pair of gloves on, if you're going out there, so you don't want to get your hands looking like Rick Murphy here. You can have really nice soft. You can have nice soft and supple hands.
Is there something wrong with these hands?
Yeah, exactly. And you also want to try to get some kind of release tool, something that you can lip the fish in. When you're standing in the water with the fish, you want to be able to control it. Now, don't do that; that'll hurt. But they make some of the plastic ones that won't rust or anything. This is a Boga grip, the high end. It's made out of stainless steel. You have to take care of it a little bit, but it won't go away on you either. Also, long stringers, especially in the summertime, 30 feet or more, because if you got a bunch of trout on the other end and the bull shark comes, you want him to be a long way away when he makes his first
good advice. Good advice.
So,
Bree?
That was a lot of good advice.
It was
Dave.
We didn't have
Energizer Bunny over there.
Enough time. He had too much, and he was worried that he wasn't going to be able to produce.
You did. All right, if you're ready to take the Yeti Upper Fresh Region bite and grab it by the horns this weekend, then listen up to Johnny Geis as he helps us gear up for Lake Monticello, Welsh, and Lake Fork. Let's hear it, Johnny.
Hello, Rick and Bree. Well, we don't do much wading around our North Texas lakes except to fish for the spawning crappie. So when the crappie are shallow, the anglers can load up the stringers by wading slowly along the banks in about 1 to 3 foot of water. It's best to use like a 10 or 12 foot pole or a fly rod, about 5 foot of line. Drop a crappie jig around the shoreline vegetation, and you'll catch some big old black spawning crappie. Crappie is spawned in that foot or less of water, like I said sometimes, and wading lets you get to those places that boaters can't reach. So we don't have the sharks here, but watch out for the water moccasins. They like the crappie too. Talk about the bass biting over at Lake Monticello. Man, they're on fire over there. Some bass are still bedding, and some are guarding the fry. Target the shallow lily pad areas, and it has a lot of hydrilla in there. Use a stick bait or soft jerk bait like a Bass Assassin for the best action. I'm seeing a lot of movement in the pads. Bass are waking the waters. They chase away the marauding bluegills trying to eat the eggs. And just throw your bait past them, work your bait through the pads. Be sure you got braid on, though, because they'll bury you up in the pad stems and break you off. The frog bite is on, too, as well as the buzzbait and topwater. So look for bass starting school over at Monticello on the shed around the bridge area soon, but they're biting. A little farther down the road on Lake Welsh, man, it continues to not have much fishing pressure after the winter being power plant lake, so it's a good place to go. The bass already in their post-spawn pattern. Topwater bites on fire on this power plant lake, and it's about as good as it can get. A couple of recent trips to Welsh this week produced 25 to 50 bass each morning. Some days the popper works best, and some days a walking bait produces best. But it seems like each day you got to figure out the cadence or the speed of your retrieve to get the most blow-ups. Hydrilla is matted up all over the lake, and I expect a good punching bite to develop there soon after the early morning topwater bite plays out. Just how good's a topwater bite? Well, here's a picture of a client last week, Jim Gresham, had a double on one little small popper. Not bad to catch 8 pounds of bass on one cast.
That's awesome. Wow. Way to go. That's a cool pick. Thank you for sharing that with us, man.
Hey, let me update you. What's going on? The big bass on Lake Fork showed out this week. Once again, it's proved to be the absolute best big bass lake in the United States. 2019 Toyota Bassmaster Texas Bass, benefiting our Texas Parks and Wildlife Department. It just concluded. Bass anglers were here this week and had huge limits. Several of them called patterns were produced as many as 25 to 30 pound bags just about half the fill. Bass were caught on frogs in the shallows and top waters, but the best limits were caught on cranks and large swim baits. Young man Brandon Cobb has won his second elite here. The 4-day event with 20 bass that weighed 114 pounds. That's a pretty good average.
Oh, Lee, I'd say so.
3 limits caught over 20 pounds, 5 limits over 30 pounds. Man, they were big bass all over. Brandon Cobb also just happened to weigh in 11-pound, 1-ounce bass, and he won a brand-new Toyota Tundra truck for that catch. So, obviously, Lake Fork's still the best big fish destination, so if you want to get on some exciting bass action, come on out to Lake Fork May and June. These are our best months, very consistent for big bass. Deep water patterns soon start, and it's not uncommon to boat 15 to 20 bass over a 6-pound average. Got a picture of old Brandon here with his largest bass, weighed in the tournament. Nice 11-pounder out of Lake Fork.
Dang, that's a nice one, bub.
Anyway, it was interesting to see how many of the top 10 anglers had different patterns. Some anglers sight fish for bedding bass, some caught them shallow, and some on top water lures and frogs in the weeds. Many of the top anglers found post-spawn bass that had already moved up to the main lake points, and they were hitting deep crankbaits. So again, I look for more and more big bass to be bunching up offshore. The rest of May and June looks great. So I hope everyone gets a chance to come out to Lake Fork and catch some big ones.
All right.
Good luck. Wear those life jackets.
So, Johnny, I got to tell you, Bree and I want to come and go fishing with you, so we should plan on next May or June, huh? Schedule a couple, 3 days with you?
I'm looking forward to that. We'll catch some big ones.
All right, we're going to make Bree bring a boat, or we're going to be able to use yours, you think?
Oh, we got mine ready. Come on, let's go fishing.
All right, sounds like he's going to make it easy on us, Bree. We just fly into Dallas, rent a car, and here we go.
I want one of those BOGOs on a top water. How about that?
All right, I think it sounds good.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Johnny. Great report from the Yeti Upper Fresh region. And now we're going to go ahead and take a look at the hot spots from the Upper Fresh region. He said Lake Monticello, the last phase of the spawn is happening now with bass on the beds, and then Lake Welsh, the bass in the post spawn. Good topwater bite is on fire here right now. And then Lake Fork, big bass on cranks and topwaters. Look for shad spawn early on the main lake points, and that's where you're going to find them on those big topwaters.
BOGO, buy one, get one. You knew that, right?
Of course.
Okay, just checking. It's like a 2-for-1. 2 bass for 1. Okay, let's jump into some CCA news real quick, Rick. CCA and Simms have partnered on a special Life member offer you won't want to miss. If you sign up as a Life member, you'll receive a pair of Simms G3 waders with the CCA logo on the front pouch, along with a wader carrying bag. You can support CCA while joining this elite group of CCA members by going to ccatexas.org and help CCA continue being a leader in conservation.
So all you got to do is sign up to get those waders?
Yeah, that's all you got to do.
That's a no-brainer, guys.
And you're a member for life. That's
nice.
Wonderful.
Exactly. Come on.
Come on.
That sounds
Go
like
do
a
it.
good deal for me.
All right. I know y'all are ready and waiting. So up next on the Texas Insider Fishing Report, we're meeting in the middle and casting to the Middle Coast and Star Tron Middle Fresh regions. So stay hooked. And remember to see what our crew is up to and everything fishing in Texas. Make sure to visit our website, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, watch us on YouTube, and check us out on Instagram. We'll be right back with more puns.
The Texas Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Contender Boats, always in the game. Bass Assassin and Saltwater Assassin, the best lures, period. CCA Star, fishing fun for giant prizes and scholarships. And Project Smokehouse, a link above.
An entirely new species of extreme predator is moving offshore. The Yamaha 5.6-liter V8 XTO offshore outboard. Extreme big block thrust and power in the industry's first direct injection 4-stroke. Quiet, efficient, powerful, and proven Yamaha reliability. More than an outboard, it's a fully integrated power system. The all-new Yamaha V8 XTO offshore.
As close as you're gonna get to a sure thing for catching billfish is Guatemala.
They're here, man. This has been a 20-year run, buddy. These things haven't left. There's no cycle. When it comes to sail fishing, this is the real deal.
The amount of sailfish here is ridiculous.
Today's Power Pole tip of the week is about the power poles and its unique design, which allows us to deploy them and get them out of the way. So let me explain to you what I'm talking about. When I come home after a day of fishing, my 10-foot blades are sticking up a little bit too high in order to get them inside of the garage. By using the foot switch that's mounted up on the bow of the boat, I simply push it down so that I can get the proper amount of clearance and back in the boat, and here we go. Another way that sometimes the power poles are in the way is simply we deploy them going through creeks with overhanging limbs or even under bridges. Now, you guys, every once in a while, you love to fish out of the back of the boat, and so do I. And sometimes guys feel like, oh, well, that power pole, it's a distraction for them. Well, guess what? We can push the button 2 times, deploy the power poles. Now they're completely submerged and out of the way until you're ready to go home. So those guys that I see at the boat show and you ask me, how do you get it in your garage? Now there's the secret, and that's today's Power Pole tip of the week.
Giving away your secrets?
I am giving away secrets. How cool is that though, Brie? You know, you don't have to get up in the boat. You just push the foot pedals, foot switches, and there you go.
So easy, man.
Easy peasy,
Go
baby.
Fishing. All right, if you plan on wading the Middle Coast region, I don't think there's anyone better to guide you than our own captain, Bink Grimes, who's had just a few wade fishing experiences of his own. Right, Bink?
Yes, ma'am. I love to wade, and before the days of my 25-foot Haney Magnum, my salty, all of my encounters were on foot when I was fishing the salt water. I caught fish in those days too, really because I gave a particular drive-in venue all my attention for that particular morning or afternoon. Where else could I go? I couldn't jump in a boat and take off, fish another spot. It taught me patience and really searching for fish on a particular locale, and why it held fish that day and why it did not. When you only have one spot to fish, you kind of learn those things. You search for answers. There's tons of spots along the Middle Coast without a boat. Some of my old spots are on the south shoreline of East Matagorda Bay. We used to drive down the beach, then drive over. It's about a mile from the beach, and you cut across the shoreline, drive right up to the shoreline, get out and wade. Then there's the jetty. You can drive right up to the rocks in Matagorda and fish. Many moons ago, I'd catch my last hours of light and toss the topwater against the rocks just as the sun was going down and the moon was coming up, and that was some of the best topwater action I ever had on a little black top dog, thrown right up against the rocks. Then in Port Aransas and Aransas Pass, there's lots of miles of walk-in spots. They're really good spots, deep guts and channels along the roadway leading to the ferry. I mean, you can drive right up to them. Many anglers do the limit of trout on live shrimp or a mirror lure over a moving tide, and it's some of the most beautiful water you'll fish, a lot like Florida. So, lots of places to wade in Texas, and we sure like doing it because it gets hot during the summer. We're going to go to trout now and tell you about the trout that are eating topwaters right now because of the sweet southeast winds. It's kind of been the first topwater bite of the year. Our fish bite better on a southeast wind because when you got a southeast wind, you usually have a low barometer, and green tides and high tides has a lot to do with it. When you have a southwest wind, your barometer is a little higher, but southeast, we love it. We call it the sweet southeast. Our tides finally swelled this week and gives us a little bit more places to fish. The new water's pushed a lot of shrimp and mullet to the shorelines. Winds, it's gusted to 25 knots or better at times, but the shorelines remain fishable and really fishable when you get out and wade. The only way to consistently catch fish this time of year on a hard wind like that is to wade. And right now we're wading. Some days we're wading with waders, other days we're wading wet. Right, it's going from 75 to 73 degrees. 73 is a little chilly, 75 is a little doable. In West Bay, we're catching trout to 25 inches on bass assassins and a few on topwaters. The incoming tide's been best around daylight, but it's peaked around lunch, and a lot of those glass minnows are coming in tight to the shoreline. And then in Freeport, those tides are pushing trout to the reefs in Christmas and Bastrop Bay. Live shrimp's working best on the edges. And then the Surfside beachfront has been good when the weather allows as well. And then at Sea Drift, those trout numbers have been good on the shell and in the shorelines under Espiritu Santo Bay and San Antonio Bay. Live bait's been the best bait. Soft plastics have been getting bites as well. And then farther down the coast in Rockport, Rhett Price said that he's wading protected shorelines on small mirror lure top waters and soft plastics. Shrimp under popping cork's been doing well there as well. And in Palacios as well, West Matagorda Bay is good on top waters and soft plastics. There's a photo there of Captain Ray Sexton's group. He's been wading the West Matagorda Bay shorelines on the incoming tide, working at sand and grass, those little humps, and catching good fish there. We'll finish up with redfish. Man, it's been good in Bass Drop Bay for the reds on live shad when you can find them. Other baits been mullet and live shrimp. Some reds have been hitting small top waters. I like the little top pump and the little sheep pump and live shrimp as well. The water clarity's been stained, but those reds are finding those baits. They're those loud mirror lure top waters are, they find them. There's a reason why they're so loud. Then guide Michael Quebeca, he said he's found good redfish and stiff wids on the reefs. He running parallel to the intercoastal waterway. He's using live shrimp, rigged about a foot under a mid-coast popping cork. And then the back lake players like Oyster Lake, Crab Lake, Lake Austin have been good on live shrimp as well. Rockport, when you got big tides like we do, Estes Flats is good, Allen's Bite's good, Super Flats is good, and the East Flats over there around Port Aransas have been holding lots and lots of reds. And then always the Port O'Connor Jetty is solid for redfish on crabs and large table shrimp. And that goes for Freeport jetties, Port O'Connor jetties, Matagorda jetties. Find some rocks, throw a chunk of meat up in there, and there's a red going to hit it. Our winds should begin to slow as we get closer to June. Patterns will kind of get a lot more consistent. We'll get more southeast winds, and we'll just keep catching fish.
All right, thank you so much, Bink. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the CCA Texas hotspots from the Middle Coast region. Redfish are good on the East Flats near Port Aransas on live shrimp and top pups, and the trout are good on the reefs and Palacios on shrimp under a mid-coast popping cork, Brie.
Palacios. Hey, you know what I'm missing?
What?
Missing some Proshex jerky.
Oh.
What happened? You gave it all away.
Yeah, man, we gave it a little away
All
the
right,
other
well, I'll
night.
get it from you later. The
got
Star-Drawn Middle Press region gets its share of wade fishing, but you have to time it right. So, Matt, if you're ready, let's not keep these folks waiting.
Absolutely. Yeah, the Middle Press region is not really a wading hotspot. It's not all that popular here because most of our lakes and rivers in this region are fairly deep. But, however, there are times when it can be an extremely good way to catch fish, namely when those reservoir levels are really high in the spring, especially if they're above the pool stage. So when the water levels are that high, what happens is there's these vast areas that are shallow and flat that are covered in buckbrush and different kinds of bushes. And when that happens and that water gets up there in those bushes, it really becomes challenging to get a boat into those areas to catch fish. So this is when it can be very helpful to simply get out and wade fish for them. Many people are very successful at that time of year. They catch a lot of good bass and crappie doing it. And Toledo Bend is probably one of the best in my region for fishing that way because when the water is flooded there, there's these really expansive flats where you can just access a ton of great fishing, whether you own a boat or not. There's lots of good wading opportunities there during those conditions. So just look for the areas where there's shallow contour lines that extend far out into the lake and key in on those spots where it's tough to get a boat especially because that's where you're going to have some fish that haven't been messed with. The Blue Lake area on Toledo Bend is a really good place to get you started. You can literally park at the boat ramp and just walk for miles in great fishing areas wading. So that's what I would recommend if you're into the wading deal.
All right.
And so as far as the fishing goes this week, I'm going to jump into bass fishing first. I've been talking with Mr. Selman up with Bass and Specialty Guide Service in the northern part of my region, and he's telling me that the bass fishing's been pretty good on Richland Chambers, and they're catching them on Texas rig plastics, real tight to the brush. Lakes are pretty high up there, so got to get shallow with them. And then on Lake Fairfield, the bass have been really tight to the cover as well, but on that lake, reeds are the cover of choice. Also catching them there on Texas Rig Plastics. And then down on Toledo Bend, in my part of the region, we've been catching them good early in the morning, still on a shad spawn pattern. And then later in the day, some fish have been hanging around brim beds. Those brim are starting to move up and bed, and those bass like to eat on those this time of year. So just keep an eye out for the birds, especially early in the morning, feeding on the bank. They'll usually lead you to the bass this time of year. A white frog and a swim jig is still a good bite, but later in the day when those fish aren't chasing as much, a bass assassin fat job is a great way to catch them, especially around those brim beds. A watermelon green and red is a good color right now for that because it really imitates those brim that those big lazy fish are going to be feeding on. And then moving on to white bass next on Toledo Bend, they've been biting pretty good as well, but it's kind of like the bass fishing, the black bass fishing, it's an early morning deal. You want to use a silver or a gold spoon to catch those and just jig it vertically to catch them. And you want to be out on the main lake most of the time on humps and points, and you got to be around the shad. They're bait fish, chasing fish. They're very nomadic. They're always going to be around the concentrations of bait. So look for that in about 10 to 20 foot of water. And then Mr. Feldman was telling me also that on Richland Chambers they've been pretty good. Same kind of deal, flats and humps. And then lastly, I've got to touch on the crappie fishing at Toledo Bend because, man, it has just been awesome. We're getting more and more fish out on those deeper spots where they're going to spend their summer. These places are about 15 to 25 foot deep, and the fish are about 8 to 15 foot down. So look for them around the timber and the bridge pilings near the drop-off. A jig is really good right now because they're still pretty aggressive this time of year. But as always, the minnow never lets you down. And then I've got a photo there to finish up with of a group I had recently with a real nice table full of crappie. Yeah, I think we caught like 113 that day. It was just amazing. I mean, they're jumping in the boat.
Man, that's making me hungry. All right, Bub, thank you so much. We'll talk to you again next week. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the middle fresh hotspots. He says the bass are being caught on Richard Chambers and Lake Fairfield on the Texas Rig Plastics near brushes and reeds. And then Toledo Bend bass are being caught on a variety of baits around the spawning shad and brim. The white bass are biting spoons on Richard Chambers, and then Toledo Bend and crappie in Toledo Bend are biting jigs and minnows around standing cover in 15 to 25 feet of water.
Well, y'all, the Upper Coast region has been waiting on us, and we're headed there next, but I see Dave Ferrell also seems to be waiting over there at the CCA workbench with some new products. So those are cute.
Do these make my head look fat?
Are those for Mother's Day?
Or is this just my head?
It's just your head.
Yeah,
but those would look great on some mama.
These are
Mama
awesome.
Bias. All right, we'll be back.
Mama Bass.
Mama Bias.
The Texas Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Yeti, built for the wild. Ameritrail, load, launch, relax. Turn on the bite anytime. Tie on a Miralure. Building Conservation Trust. CCA's National Habitat Program. And StarTron. Cures and prevents ethanol fuel problems.
At the pinnacle of super high output, 4-stroke outboard performance, you'll find Yamaha VMAX SHO. Yamaha's game-changing SHO technology. From exhilarating V6 models to the sleek inline 4s, there's a VMAX SHO for everything from bass to bonefish. It's an extended family of 4-strokes engineered for lightweight, inspiring performance, and rock-solid reliability. Discover VMAX SHO and elevate your expectations.
Oh, there it is.
You can either stay busy fishing or get busy catching. From Texas to Tampa Bay or Key West to the Carolinas and beyond. For nearly 20 years, anglers everywhere have come to know one thing, that nothing says no to fish bites. Ask for Fish Bites and Fish Bites Fight Club lures by name or visit fishbites.com.
Over 40 years ago, Mr. Proshek began smoking meat in a little Texas town called Hilgi, combining fresh, grade A ingredients to create a variety of legendary smoked meats. Today, Proshek's Smokehouse is a Texas tradition, and now Proshek's not only satisfies hunger in Texas, but across the country. Visit Prosheks.com and order everything from fresh meats to your choice of jerky. Proshek's meats are made by Prosheks, sold by Prosheks, and can be delivered in as little as a day. Proshek Smokehouse, a link above.
at the CCA workbench.
Yes, sir.
And you know, Dave, you got some make good to do.
Correct. Yep, I did. I forgot to tell people where they could get this book, The Saltwater Strategies, Where, When, and How to Wade Fish Texas by Bink Grimes. If you go to www.fishgame.com. It's published by Texas Fish and Game Publishing, but fishgame.com.
Fishgame.com.
Yep, you can find that.
All right, so let's get into some products.
Right, first off, we got some men's Terrafin fishing boots. These are the new wading boots. You know, there's the ultimate wading boot, especially for fly fishing. You know, they're designed for dry fly fishing, but you can use them for any wading situation. They got the nice lace-ups to keep the stuff out. They're incredibly lightweight. They have the drain system in the bottom that you know, if they get wet, all the water drains out through the bottom. They dry incredibly fast, and the most important thing that I like, again, is that they're very, very lightweight.
You know what's cool about them, Dave, is there's an insole that you can pull out of here real easily.
Correct, yeah.
And then what that does, it allows the shoe to dry even faster.
Correct, and it won't stink as bad.
Does it?
Yeah, and these very good laces here, they won't rot. They're synthetic laces.
There you go. Put them over.
That's pretty cool.
I got them.
See you later. All right, next we got the Everglast Ray Guard Shield. These, if you're going to be wading in a place where there's a lot of stingrays, like, you know, Texas, and just about any place where you have really good wade fishing, there's probably going to be stingrays around. Well, these will keep, you know, keep you relatively safe. Nobody likes to say that, you know, anything is going to be 100%, but these allow you to at least take some precautions, especially from a smaller rays that'll hit you in, you know, knee and below. You pair these with a pair of nice wading boots. And they'll give you really good protection. They're adjustable even around, you know, they get really big for the fellas who have giant calves like me. And then they have a nice lockable clasps, and
so they stay in there good and tight.
And they have an elastic band in the middle too on the inside, so that they keep you tight in there. So you want them to be really tight fitting on you, so they're not sloshing around when you're fighting them when you're wading.
Yeah,
but those are Everlast Ray Guard shields from foreverlast.com. Now this is a really cool thing. You know, I fish a lot, you know, by myself and with my dog, and although she's a great companion, she doesn't help me launch the boat any at all. And this is the Z Launch
TH Marine
from TH Marine. It's a launch cord, and what you do is you'll hook one end up to the
bow eye,
and you hook this one up to the
winch handle.
The winch.
You want me to do this
your
for
winch hook, so that when you launch that boat, this nice rubberized cord will stretch out, and it won't jerk your boat around. Yeah, I'm not gonna.
You let it go, and
it won't jerk your boat around. It won't jerk you around if you're you know, having to stand there on a rope. It comes to a really nice gentle stop and allows you to jump out and get your boat and retrieve it without having to, you know,
a boat bungee cord.
Exactly. It comes in 10, 15, and 20-foot lengths. You know, the Z Launch watercraft launch cord from TH Marine.
All right.
We got. What, you want to do the rod runners?
Yeah, let's do these.
We'll do those. Okay, these are the Band of Anglers. These are, I had them on my ears earlier. These are the Dart Spin. We saw a prototype of them last year maybe, but these are the finished, brand new Dart Spins from Band of Anglers. These are designed by Patrick Zabeel. I've used them. They're amazing. They're very versatile. You can troll them. I've caught fish trolling with them. They're weedless. You can throw them up into some really nasty stuff. That spinner bait on the back adds a huge amount of flash and vibration, and you can rig them in so many different ways. You can jig them. What's really, really great about them is how they sink.
They sink like
level.
They
sink perfectly level, and it just looks so good when you throw them and drop them right on the edge of a weeds or some hydrilla or whatever, and they just sink perfectly slowly. And they're made out of this hyperelastic stuff that's very, very strong. They come, you know, they'll sell you one by itself with fully rigged, and then you can buy replacements in packs of 2, and they will last through many fish. They're very strong. You don't want to put them with your regular soft baits because they might clash because of what these things are made out of, but they're very, very strong, and I think this is going to be a game changer for quite a few people.
Good job.
The Dart Spin by Band of Anglers.
One more region to go.
Y'all are finishing each other's sentences. I love it. All right, last but not least,
gotta finish mine.
It's the Fish Bites Upper Coast region, and Captain Carl Weston has got some tips for you if you plan on getting on or in the water this weekend. Hope we didn't keep you waiting too long, Carl.
No, I'm here. Hello, Rick and Bree.
How you doing, Carl?
Great. Hey, let's talk about this wade fishing. The advantage, one of the biggest advantages of wade fishing versus fishing by boat is you can access areas that you cannot reach by boat. Another advantage is stealth. You know, wading is much quieter than running a boat with a noisy motor. It'll get you a lot closer to the schools of fish. When fishing 2 or more people, you can cover a much larger area and reduce your time looking for fish. So when the weather gets calm, wading the surf has been really good for us lately on trout. Normally the entire beachfront from High Island to Port Bolivar and the entire Galveston Island are good. But it seems lately that the west end of Galveston Island from Jamaica Beach to San Luis Pass has been better than the rest. Now when you're fishing the surf, look for visible bait slicks or bird activity. This will help you pinpoint schools of fish. Get out there in the surf and work the first gut thoroughly and then move out to the second and third gut. Top waters are normally going to be your best bait in the surf, but Bass Assassin soft plastic is very good also. Now when this water gets real clear, try tying on an old school mirror lure 51 MR. We've been catching some really nice trout up to 7 pounds in the surf in the last couple of weeks. There's plenty of access to these beaches if you look for the public beach access sign. And always remember to look for signs for closed areas of fishing, which can happen with strong riptides. And your safety is always very important to us. Picture we got is an old friend, Caleb Harp, there with a trout.
Dang, look at Caleb looking
Oh,
kind of
hey,
rough.
Caleb.
Got the rainstorm sneaking
That's
up
okay.
behind
Look
him.
at that fish, though.
All right, tell me about the redfish, bub.
Okay, speaking of redfish, there's a more concentrated area that will hold reds year-round. The Ship Channel region of the Upper Galveston Bay complex from Morgan Point to San Jacinto River. There are miles and miles of rock wall that line the Houston Ship Channel and other various channels, barge canals, and docking stations. And with this deep water access of the Ship Channel, which is around 50 feet, these fish never really leave. Even with hard floods, these fish will tuck down in the channel and ride it out. Whenever the water gets good again, they'll hop out of the channel into the barge and the spoil areas chasing bait. The redfish love to run up and down these rocks looking for bait. And the best way to fish these rocks is fish parallel to the rocks, kind of like you'd fish the jetties. Soft plastic paddle tails such as mirror lure marsh minnows work great. And Caleb likes to rig them with an 1/8 ounce jig head. This will allow you to break through some of the heavy current, but not too heavy where you're getting hung up on the protruding rocks. Spinner baits and spoons have been working well also. And he said don't be afraid to try on a square bill crankbait or even a wake bait. He said these reds will just about eat anything you put in front of them. And here's a picture of one of his customers with a nice redfish.
Nice. All right, tell me about the cobias, bub.
As we reported a few weeks back, we're seeing a lot more ling offshore and near shore. These fish are showing up around bottom structure and most anything that sticks out of the water, Rick, such as standpipes, oil platforms, navigational buoys. Now, with the recent heavy rains, the waters have muddied up a bit inshore, making it a little more difficult to spot these fish on the surface. But moving out a little deeper in the water, it gets clearer, will increase your chance of catching these fish. Yeah, try casting a 2-ounce jig head with a Bass Assassin paddle tail, green or white, has been hot. Or if you can catch live shad, put them on a 4-ounce circle hook, and that'll be dynamite. Here's a picture of Rodney with a nice ling last week.
All right, tell me about this photo quickly.
Oh, Spanish mackerel.
Yeah, go ahead.
We're on Spanish. We just had the Spanish are coming in. They're fun fish to fight on light tackle offshore, and generally if you see some birds working over bait on the shorelines, it's a good chance there'll be school Spanish mackerel underneath. Working birds on these fish is a visual thing. They're fun to chase, and you get consistently good bites, casting or trolling spoons or small jigs on a wire leader. Like I say, Spanish mackerel aren't very big, but they're fun to fight on light tackle.
All right, thanks, Carl. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the Mirror hotspots from the Upper Coast. Carl says trout in Galveston stir from Jamaica Beach to the San Luis Pass. Wade fishing, the surf has been hot whenever the weather is right. The MirrorLure 51 MR whenever the water is really clear. Top waters and soft plastics are still a great choice. And then offshore, cobias on surface structure, inshore and offshore casting. 2-ounce jigs with bass, sass, and paddletail, green or white, and a live shad on a 4-0 circle. Blah, blah.
Well, we hope we reeled you guys in today for a great show. And this weekend is Mother's Day. We hope all the mamas are out on the water having a great weekend fishing.
Hey, take Mama fishing.
Take Mama fishing.
That's
It's
a Mother's Day,
right?
Taking my mama fishing.
This mama's going fishing, that's for sure. Thank you guys for
Bye,
tuning
guys.
in, and we will see you next week on the
All right,
Texas
bye-bye.
Insider Fishing Report. Bye.
He's taking a line.